guys, Jack here and welcome to another video. So this is another match day preview. This is the first match day preview since the January transfer window is closed, and a lot of big signings has happened. Will we see some of these clubs, giving players their debuts, or do they give them the time? So let's just jump into it. So the first game we're going to be looking at is Chelsea versus Fulham. Chelsea obviously spending over £300 million on different signings like Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, Joao Felix on loan, Madueke, like a lot of huge signings. And Fulham were a bit more measured with their dealings, to say the least. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I know it's going to be at the Bridge, but Fulham have proven to be a strong side. And Chelsea, will they be able to implement all these different players? Potter has definitely a tough task in his hands, but I could see them getting I would say a 1-0 win. They've had over a week, I think over 2 weeks to implement the tactics, so I think they will get the job done here. Next game, Saturday lunchtime, is Everton versus Arsenal. I think it's a big game for both Everton and Arsenal. Everton obviously in the relegation zone, but Sean Dyche is in. Will they have that new manager bounce? While Arsenal with Arteta, they have shown that they are capable. Granted, they did lose in the FA Cup against Man City, but maybe that's a blessing in disguise that they have one less competition to worry about. For me, I don't think Everton will have enough. They didn't strengthen during the transfer window, while Arsenal have. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-0 to Arsenal. Next is Brighton versus Bournemouth. I'm interested to see what Brighton do. Obviously, they allowed Caicedo to sit out of the match against Liverpool, and they didn't necessarily miss him. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. I suspect that he will be missing out on this as well, whether they'll be on the bench or out of the squad entirely. But De Zerbi wants to see him back, and you can see why. He's a very talented player, and I don't think sitting on the bench is going to help him. Bournemouth have made a lot of big signings relative to their club, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 to Brighton. Next is United versus Palace. United obviously made a couple of signings. Sabitzer at the end of on deadline day. I think that's a huge signing considering how well he's been doing with Bayern Munich. And Palace, they've signed a young French striker from Stuttgart. I don't think he's gonna. I'd say he'll come off the bench here, but I don't think he's gonna start. I don't believe anyway. I think this will probably be a 2-0 to United. I know they drew against Palace away, but I think they're going to be wanting to just pick up, obviously recover from that last game. But they beat Forest 2-0 last night, and they looked good. Obviously the second half kind of was better for them, but that's just how it is sometimes. Next is Brentford versus Southampton. It's hard to say. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, because I see Southampton strengthen well, and they seem to they're starting to gel under Nathan Jones. Thomas Frank, I actually could see him getting a victory here, but I don't think Brentford are going to push over Southampton, and that's why I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Next is Wolves versus Liverpool. It's going to be interesting to see this, because Liverpool are in poor form. They haven't, and they've looked solid. Like, they looked all right, but they haven't looked amazing. Wolves, on the other hand, made a lot of signings, and they're starting to pick up a bit of form under Lopetegui. I think Klopp is going to stick with the midfield that he had for the match against Brighton, with Bajic and Thiago, and I think someone else they had playing, Naby Keita, because they have a lot of energy and they can kind of press ball quite well. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I hope it's a high scoring game anyway. Next is Villa Leicester. I'm just going to go with a Villa 1-0, because Leicester haven't been great, and I'm going to say it's going to be a corner from who will score it. I think Tyrone Mings getting the goal. Next is Newcastle West Ham. West Ham obviously aren't in the greatest of form. They beat Derby in the FA Cup, but Newcastle are in the League Cup final, and I say they're going to be riding high in that momentum. Will that have an effect on their mentality for this game? Almost like, they won't be as committed, but I don't think Eddie Howe, he's not one of those kind of coaches that'll kind of focus on the cup like that. For me, I think it's going to be I'm gonna say a 2-1 to Newcastle because they're going to be at home. I think West Ham are just going to have too big of a hill to climb. Next is Forest versus Leeds. Forest making, I think they've made a total of 28 signings since last summer, and Leeds have made a couple of smart acquisitions this window with obviously Bova, Reuter, and McKennie on loan. It's gonna be, I don't know if any of I think Reuter will probably have a game. Bova will start, and I think they have the potential to cause an upset. Really, I think it's going to be a tightly contested game, and I'm going to go 1-0 Leeds. And lastly, because I think I'll just mention this game, 2-0 Man United because that's at Old Trafford. But with the game Tottenham versus Man City, obviously Conte is going to be out for a period of time after recovering from surgery, and I think it's going to be up to the Tottenham players to gear themselves up for it. Obviously they made Pedro Porro's come in, and I think, well, I don't think it's hard to imagine he'll be thrown to the deep end here, but chance I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously João Cancelo's gone from Man City because of the bit of a toxic attitude with Guardiola, and they just kind of couldn't, they didn't want to deal with it anymore. It's going to be interesting to see. Tottenham haven't been in great form, and City have been stop and start. They're still trying to adapt under Haaland, and the players are doing the same as well. I think it's going to be an interesting tie at home at White Hart Lane. I'm going to go with 3-1 to City because I think Tottenham will start off quite slow, and obviously without Conte they don't really have someone to kind of jeer them up. But I wouldn't be surprised come half time we see Conte roll up in a hospital gown holding onto an IV drip, just like screaming from the touchline, because he somehow got out of the hospital. So we'll have to see what happens there. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you checked out my last video, which is about the grades I've given different clubs for the transfer window, give that a watch. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care.